You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real and the fear is too. Alright, so the first story we're diving into tonight is called The Crossroads Ballerina. And man, this one just gets under your skin, you know? It's a submission from a guy who used to drive a truck out of Omaha, Nebraska, and he swears on his life every single word of this is true. I mean, after reading it, I'm not really sure what to believe anymore. Just listen. Okay, so I used to drive long haul, right? Like coast to coast sometimes, but mostly just Midwest loops. Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. You know, cornfields, flat roads, endless sky. This one time, it was late spring, I think? Yeah, late spring, maybe early summer. 'Cause the nights were getting a little warmer, but still had that chill. I was on a run from Omaha down through Kansas, heading towards Wichita. It was past midnight, probably closer to 1:30 or 2 a.m. Just me, the hum of the engine, and whatever garbage was on the satellite radio. Had a terrible headache too, from not drinking enough water and probably too much coffee. My back was aching like hell. You know how it is, just sitting there for hours on end, nothing but road. Had this annoying song stuck in my head, like some pop country thing I hated but couldn't shake. Just wanted to pull over and stretch my damn legs. I'd stopped at this gas station maybe an hour before, one of those ancient ones that smells like stale coffee and desperation. Bought a bag of chili cheese Fritos, the big bag, and a lukewarm Red Bull. The guy behind the counter had this weird birthmark on his neck that looked like a map of Florida, and I remember staring at it, trying not to be obvious, while he counted out my change. Forgot to fill my thermos with coffee too, which was just a kick in the pants. Anyway, I was rolling, munching on the chips, trying to stay awake, windows down a crack to let in some of that cool night air. The stars out there, man, they're something else. No city lights to mess it up, just billions of tiny pinpricks of light. I was looking up, you know, just for a second, then back to the road. That's when I saw it. Or her. It was way out there, on this old, beat-up dirt road that crossed the highway, nowhere near a town. Just a T-intersection, like an old gravel track leading off into the darkness. There was a little clump of scraggly trees, and what looked like the remains of an abandoned farmhouse, just a couple of timbers sticking up against the horizon. And right there, smack in the middle of the crossroads, under the moon, was a woman. She was dancing. I slowed down, naturally. You don't just see someone out in the middle of nowhere, 2 a.m., dancing in the road, and not slow down. My first thought was, like, maybe she broke down, maybe she's drunk, lost her mind, but she wasn't flailing or staggering. It was deliberate, like ballet. She had on this long, dark skirt, I think, and a light-colored top. Her hair was dark, pulled back in a bun, I guess. It was too far to really make out details, but the silhouette, man, it was just surreal. She was spinning, kind of twirling, her arms up. It wasn't frantic, it was graceful, almost beautiful, in a really creepy, out-of-place way. I eased off the gas, my foot hovering over the brake. My heart was thumping a little, you know, just because it was so weird. I figured I'd pull over, ask if she needed help. Maybe she ran out of gas. Although who dances in the middle of the freaking highway at 2 a.m. if they ran out of gas? As I got closer, the highway was a bit elevated there, so I had a pretty good view. She wasn't dancing towards me, she was just dancing in place, twirling, bowing, then kind of tapping her feet. It was almost like a performance. But for who? There was no one else around. Not even a car parked anywhere. Just the abandoned farmhouse. And the moon. And then she turned. She turned to face me, and her head snapped around too fast, like impossibly fast. Not like a person, not like a dancer. It was like one of those old stop-motion things, you know? Her head just clicked into place, looking right at my truck. And even from that distance, man, I swear, I could feel her looking right at me. The way she held her body. It was still graceful, but there was something so wrong about the angle of her head. It was tilted, like a bird listening. But her eyes, I couldn't see them, but I knew they were on me. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My headache suddenly felt like a vice crushing my skull. My legs started twitching under the dash. That pop country song, it was still playing in my head, but now it felt like a mocking soundtrack. Then she started to move. Not dancing anymore. She started to walk. Slowly at first, but still with that weird, almost gliding motion, like she was on ice or something, not gravel. She was coming towards the highway, towards my lane, and she was still facing me, but moving sideways, like a crab walk, but elegant. And her head was still twisted around, looking right at me. I hit the brakes, hard. The truck squealed a little, and I could feel the trailer shift. My stomach lurched. This wasn't right. This wasn't human. This was... I don't even know what to call it. A glitch. A nightmare walking around in the real world. She didn't speed up. She just kept that slow, sideways glide, coming closer. And the moonlight, it was catching her face now, just barely. I couldn't see features, not really, but I could see the shape of her face. It was too pale, too smooth, like something carved out of old bone. And her mouth, it was just a line, like she didn't have lips, just a seam in the middle of her face. And her eyes, they were black, just hollow black holes, reflecting nothing. I started shaking. My foot, it just stomped on the gas, man. I jammed it. The truck roared. I swerved around the intersection, not even looking if another car was coming. I just had to get past her. I kept my eyes on the road, trying not to look directly at her, but in my peripheral vision, I could see her getting closer, still sliding. As I flew past, I swear to God, she just twirled again. A final, impossibly fast spin, right there on the shoulder of the highway, her dark skirt flaring out. And then she was gone, just disappeared into the dark, like a puff of smoke. Or like I just drove through a ghost. I didn't stop driving until the sun came up, like 4 states later. My hands were still shaking on the wheel. The bag of Fritos was still open on the passenger seat, but I couldn't eat. That headache, man, it stayed with me for days. Felt like someone was hammering nails into my brain. I still pay rent on that apartment I have in Omaha, you know? But I haven't been back to drive a truck since. My old boss calls sometimes, asks why I quit, if I'm coming back. I just tell him I can't. I just can't.
Help me.
Every long, empty road looks different now. Every dark crossroads. I don't know what to say to that. I really don't. That feeling of something being completely out of place, utterly wrong, in such a mundane, normal setting like a highway. That's just chilling. Okay, well, let's just move on, I guess. The next entry, apartment balcony, comes from someone living in a big apartment complex. And let me tell you, this one makes me feel a little less safe in my own place. So I live in this big old apartment complex, right? It's like 7 stories, red brick, kind of falling apart. But it's cheap, and it's near my job at the coffee shop. I'm on the 3rd floor, overlooking a bunch of other apartments and this sad little patch of grass they call a courtyard. There's always some noise, you know? Like neighbors arguing, dogs barking, sirens wailing. It's just city life. I've been there for like 3 years now. My fridge makes this terrible grinding noise every 10 minutes. And the light in my bathroom always flickers. It's a whole thing. One night, it was maybe a Tuesday? Yeah, I think it was a Tuesday. Because my roommates were out. And I was just chilling, alone, trying to finish this stupid report for my online class. My head was kind of fuzzy from staring at a screen too long, and I was just about to give up and watch some stupid reality TV show. I had a half-eaten bag of those sour cream and onion chips next to me, and I was kind of picking at a chip crumb stuck to my shirt. I was just feeling really lonely, you know? Like everyone else was doing something cool, and I was stuck in my ugly apartment. I got up to stretch, went to the balcony door to get some air. It was a really clear night, kind of chilly, but nice. I usually just look out at the skyline, but for some reason, my eyes drifted down and across to the opposite building. It's like maybe 50 feet away. You can see right into people's living rooms if they don't close their blinds, which is kind of creepy, I know, but also like sometimes you can see a cute dog, so whatever. Anyway, I'm looking, and I see her. On one of the balconies, maybe the 4th or 5th floor, it's hard to tell exactly from my angle. There's this woman. She's dressed really strangely, even for this neighborhood. Like a long, dark dress or skirt and a white blouse. It looked almost old-fashioned. And she was dancing. Like, really dancing. Not just swaying. She was twirling. Kind of doing these little steps, arm movements. It was graceful, like ballet, but also really intense. Like she was performing on a stage. At first, I was just curious. Like, oh cool, someone's having a late night dance party by themselves. Maybe she was a dancer, practicing? Seemed kind of weird to do it on a tiny balcony, but hey, people are weird. My neighbor once tried to teach his parrot to sing opera, so, you know. I watched her for a few minutes. She was spinning, sometimes dipping down, then springing back up. Her movements were really fluid, but there was something off. It was almost too fluid, like she didn't have bones. Her elbows seemed to bend in ways that didn't look right. And her head, sometimes it would just snap to a different angle in a blink. Then she stopped, mid-spin, just froze, facing away from me towards the railing, her arms out. And she stayed like that for what felt like a really long time, like a statue. I started to wonder if she was like a mannequin or something. But no, I saw her move. This was real. I leaned closer to my railing, trying to get a better look. My heart was starting to thump a bit, you know? Like a little bit of that anxious feeling you get when you see something you can't explain. I told myself it was just a neighbor being quirky. Just a weird performance. And then she shifted. Without turning her body, her head just rotated. All the way around. Slowly. Like on a really rusty swivel. She turned her head until it was facing directly at me. Her body was still facing the railing, but her face just looking over her shoulder, right at my balcony. I couldn't make out details from that distance, but I knew she was looking right at me. And her head stayed twisted like that for a full 10 seconds. Or maybe it was a minute. Time just kind of warped. It was so wrong. Nobody can do that. Not without breaking their neck. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen. My bag of chips was still on the couch, untouched. My breath was catching in my throat. The grinding of my fridge, the sirens, the neighbors' muffled music. It all just faded away. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears and the frantic pounding of my heart. Then, she started dancing again. But this time, it was different. It wasn't graceful. It was jerky. Faster. Her arms were flailing more. And she wasn't just spinning. She was like jerking her whole body. Like a puppet whose strings were being yanked by a drunk giant. And all the while, her head was still twisted around, looking at me like she was dancing at me. I finally managed to step back, away from the railing, into the shadow of my apartment. I just stood there, pressed against the wall, peering out from behind the doorframe. My whole body was tingling, like when your foot falls asleep, but it was everywhere. She kept dancing, more frantic now. Her movements were getting bigger, more exaggerated, almost violent. And then she took a step, a really big step, like she was floating, and she was no longer on her balcony. She was in the air, just hovering there, between her building and mine, still dancing, still jerking and flailing, her head still twisted, staring. And slowly, so slowly, she started to drift towards my building, towards my balcony. I slammed the door shut, locked it, pulled the curtains, everything. I just stumbled back, tripped over my coffee table, and landed on the floor. I pulled my knees up to my chest, my arms wrapped around myself, and I just shook. I couldn't stop. I could still see her face in my mind, that impossibly twisted neck. I could feel her eyes. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I just stayed in my living room, lights on, watching TV with the volume really loud. I haven't been on that balcony since. I pay rent on that apartment, but I mostly just stay in my bedroom, huddled in bed. I sometimes think I hear a faint tapping from outside, on my window, even though I'm on the 3rd floor. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I think I see a shadow on the wall. Like someone's silhouette is just there, on the brick of the building opposite mine. Just standing, waiting. That's just not right. Floating? Just hovering between buildings? That's completely messed up. I'm actually feeling a little queasy right now. My hands are shaking. This stuff, man, it gets to you. Okay, deep breath. We have one more story for tonight, and this one is called The Mole Food Court. And yeah, it's exactly where you think it is. So I work at this, dead mole, you know? It's one of those places that used to be packed back in the 90s, but now it's just a ghost town. Most of the stores are empty. Some of the lights are always flickering. And the only things really left are a sad pretzel stand, a couple of clothing stores for old people, and this one big department store that's barely hanging on. I work at the pretzel stand. It's a miserable job, man. The smell of stale pretzels just haunts my clothes. My uniform shirt has a permanent grease stain on the shoulder that I just can't get out. It was a Friday night, almost closing time, 9 o'clock. The mall officially closes at 9:30, but by 9, it's pretty much deserted. I had to stay a bit later to clean up, mop the floor around the stand, wipe everything down. The food court usually shuts down even earlier, so it was already empty. Just the tables and chairs, all shiny from the cleaning crew, and the weird echo you get in a big, empty space. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, some of them a yellowish color, others a stark white. It always gives me a headache after a long shift. My foot was itching like crazy inside my shoe, too. Just one of those really annoying, persistent itches. I was wiping down the counter, kind of humming to myself, thinking about getting home and playing video games. Just, normal stuff. The mall usually plays this really awful, easy-listening music. But at night, it gets even worse. Like elevator music from the 80s. I hate it. That's when I heard it. A faint tapping sound. Like someone was tapping their foot on the tiled floor. It wasn't part of the music. It was too rhythmic, too precise. I looked up instinctively. My heart just kind of skipped a beat. In the middle of the food court, under one of the really bright, harsh lights, was a woman. She was dancing, just like the stories. Long, dark skirt, white blouse, hair pulled back. She was just there. Not like she walked in, just there. Twirling slowly, tapping her feet, doing these little delicate spins. She was really good, I guess, if you looked at it objectively. Like a trained dancer. But the problem was, why was she there? The mall was empty. The food court was closed. And she looked like she was from, 100 years ago. I just stood there, holding my half-wet rag, staring. My mouth was kind of hanging open, I guess. My itchy foot was totally forgotten. My headache throbbed. I thought, maybe it's a security guard doing a weird prank? Or some TikTok thing? People do weird stuff for social media, But there was no camera, no phone set up. No one else. Just her.
Play with me.
She kept dancing. Her movements were really graceful, but too stiff at the same time. Too perfect. Like a wind-up toy. She'd spin, pause, then tap, then glide. And her head. It was always kind of tilted. Like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then she saw me. She didn't stop dancing. She just turned her head, slowly. like she was looking over her shoulder. But her body kept moving, kept twirling, kept doing the little steps. Her head just came around, smoothly, until she was looking right at me. And her dancing didn't miss a beat. It was like her head was completely separate from her body. I dropped the rag. It made a pathetic little plop sound on the wet floor. My hands started to sweat. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the linoleum. My throat felt dry as sand. She took a step towards me, while still dancing. It was that same weird, gliding sidestep from the other stories I've heard now. Like she was on roller skates, but perfectly controlled, and her head was still locked on me. Her dark eyes, they weren't reflecting the harsh overhead lights. They were just absorbing them, like black holes. She took another step, and another. Slowly, she was closing the distance across the food court. Every twirl, every tap, every glide brought her closer. Her mouth was just a thin, flat line. No expression. Nothing. Just that dance. And that stare. I started to back away, slowly, clutching the edge of the counter. My whole body was buzzing, like I'd just chugged 10 energy drinks. I could feel my pulse hammering in my temples. The awful elevator music felt like it was playing directly inside my skull now. She was maybe 20 feet away now. And then she raised an arm, slowly. Her fingers pointed at me. Still dancing, still gliding, still staring. It wasn't menacing, not exactly. It was more like an invitation or a command, like she wanted me to join her. And then she smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was slow. Her lips stretched, impossibly wide, revealing teeth that were too small, too sharp, like a child's teeth, but also too many of them, like a shark. And her eyes, those black holes, they seemed to widen too. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was a smile of hunger or possession. That's when I finally broke free. I screamed. I don't remember screaming, but my throat was raw later, so I must have. I turned and ran. I didn't even lock up the pretzel stand. I just bolted out of there, through the empty corridors of the mall, past the closed stores, towards the emergency exit. The alarm blared for a second as I burst through, but I didn't care. I just ran, out into the night. I didn't stop running until I got home, like 2 miles away. My lungs were burning. My legs were aching. I locked all my doors, pulled the blinds. I just sat on my couch, shaking, trying to catch my breath. The pretzel smell on my shirt was suddenly overwhelming. I couldn't get it off. I still have that job. I still go to the mall every day. But I don't go near the food court after dark. I always leave exactly when my shift ends, and I avoid looking down the long corridors. Sometimes, when the mall is really quiet, I think I can still hear it. A faint, rhythmic tapping. Just one tap, then another. And I wonder if she's still there, just dancing, waiting for someone to join her. And that's it for tonight. These stories, they just really stick with you, don't they? That feeling of something so normal, so mundane, being twisted into something truly terrifying. It's a lot. If you've ever encountered anything like this, anything you can't explain, please send it in. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Shadowen, and hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time.